Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Living a Graceful Life. I'm your host, Tracy Gelb, and I have Miss Coco Duan here this evening with me. She has been on the show before, and we got to know each other a bit, but then I saw through social media and connections that she has recently written a book. So I was fascinated with that, wanted to hear all about her journey these last few months since we've connected. We tried to do a little program together over the holidays, but both of us, with our schedules, just couldn't get it together. But now here we are together. And I want to welcome you and thank you so much, Coco.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Tracy. It's
It's
always a pleasure.
my pleasure. Thank you're so welcome. And I want to hear a little bit. I had written a few notes down here. So for those of you that don't know, and maybe you can tell us a little bit, I'd love to hear your journey of where you were in the corporate crazy world. So tell it to where you are now.
Yes, absolutely. That was felt like lifetime ago, but really was just 3.5 years ago. And I was a big hustler, high achieving, overachiever, completely just climbing the corporate ladder and very much think the success meant is right promotion after promotion, make a lot of money, good titles and all of that. And more than just that, on top of that is that, and I was married, and then I just really checked all the boxes. But I realized, I was so unhappy and so unhappy. And then that's really where it all started to change. Obviously, it didn't just happen overnight, but it
Mhm.
was this process of years and years of just like not listening to my inner voice, right? I felt it. I felt the burnout. I felt the frustration. I felt really unsafe at home, but somehow I just ignored it for many, many years and just kept myself busy, just always hoping the next thing is going to was going to solve the problem, right? Next promotion, next next thing, next career change, and my ex-husband's next job. Always feels the external stuff gonna fix the problem, and until every box was checked, but still, like, no, the problem was not solved. Sounds like there has to be another solution. And that's
Yeah.
when the inner work started. But before, I never even understood what it meant when people say, "Oh, you need to do your inner work." I'm like, what the heck even that means? Until I personally experienced it. And so, yeah, so today I'm a life coach, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm happily single. And I'm
Mhm.
really, yes, I'm writing, right? I'm writing my book, I'm doing speaking, and I'm just doing the things that I thought were completely impossible before.
I think it's interesting because, I think about what you were saying, and I read a little bit of you did like a little promo about your pre-written, your book in the
Mm-hmm.
pre-sale, and you talked about the successes that you had checked, and one of them was being a millionaire. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought about how much of an emphasis sometimes we can put on money
Oh,
and
yeah.
how unbelievably, of course we have to have it to live, and I get that, to pay bills and to survive. But when that becomes everything and the success and the overachieving and all of that, we lose that, like the humanity and the compassion and the true meaning of helping, of
Mm-hmm.
really helping. I mean, there's no amount of money that will ever replace having purpose and being purposeful and understanding that, you know, I want to take care of my mom as much as I can financially, emotionally, but she's not about money and I'm not, and we were never, our family wasn't. So I see a lot of, sometimes around me in my life, people on this like hamster wheel, on this crazy. I've seen, like, even for example, a stock market falling, ruin. I mean, it just seems like it's never enough. Like, oh, I lost X amount of millions today, instead of putting putting the priorities that we have on the things that really, really matter. And I think stepping out of that world, I owned a business and I did make quite a bit of money, but I was, they all know my story. I was drinking and gambling and doing drugs and everything. So the money never stayed, obviously. But I was so unhappy and empty. It didn't matter how much money. I could have bags of money and I didn't
Yeah.
have my soul. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
being on this journey and what you're doing, And I bet you feel like, I know you're doing the life coaching and having the
Mm-hmm.
groups. That must mean everything to you.
Oh yeah. Yes, 100%. As you know, as an entrepreneur, it's I would say building my own business and doing life coaching, it's way more challenging than I thought. And building my own business from scratch, right? And have to do everything as you have had your business before. So you have to wear so many hats. You need to learn all different skills, sales, marketing. You need to do your own copywriter. You need to be your own accountant, right? Everything. It's so much more challenging than just show up at a job 9 to 5. But it's just the work doesn't feel like work. And
Mm.
because I'm just driven by different purpose and different meaning, right? Before it was truly mostly, I would say I didn't know it was really just for the money, very much for the money, and also for the so-called external validation, prestige. I'm the director of this prestigious company. Oh, I work for Nike. Oh, I work for Walmart. Blah blah blah. Right? It's only for others to see. But now the work it is so much. It's how it makes me feel. Make me feel, yeah, just like you said, well, fulfilling and rewarding. And this is what life is about. It's a true, meaningful, like impact and connections.
Yeah. I was telling my mom today when I went on my healing journey and I had to when we lost my sister, which was going to be 8 years in 2 weeks tonight today, which doesn't even
Mm-hmm.
seem possible. 8 years in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I went on a very, downward spiral. I'd already stopped doing drugs at that point and I'd stopped different things, but I started picking up the gambling and the drinking and chain smoking and eating horrible food and all of these things to kind of numb the circumstances. But I didn't feel I mean, I felt like something wasn't right. I felt like I was like in another universe. I didn't understand like you, like I had listened to The Secret before. I had listened to a few things. I had heard people say, "Oh, I'm working on myself," but I didn't even know what that meant because in the state of mind that I was in, and I think it's different, but the same what you were going through because we didn't love ourselves enough to realize why were you in a bad marriage? Why was I with a fiance that was
Yeah.
cheating on me? Why was I eating everything I could get in my mouth? Why were you working yourself to death? And that's what it is working, to overwhelm, which kills the brain and gives us Alzheimer's and
Mm-hmm.
cancer. These are because we're lacking things in ourselves. And I know this and I understand
Mm-hmm.
this. Now being on this journey, I have when I talk to my, I do a wellness group and I talk to them, it's after my class and I talk to them about loving themselves. And I've had talking about loving myself and I've had people say to me, "What do you mean?" And it's not in a way I think I know exactly what they're saying because it's not like a foreign thing. If you had told me like 10 years ago, like, you really need to work on yourself, but you need to love yourself, I would have been like, okay, crazy person. But I understand in order to ever help somebody else, ever, in any
Mm-hmm.
circumstance in life, we have to care about ourselves enough to do that so that we can't be one of
Yeah.
these, you know what I mean? Like sometimes
100%.
you go to a doctor and they're very sick. You're not going to put a lot of faith in them, unfortunately
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or it's just the
Yeah.
nature of the beast. So having this awakening, so to speak, and then meeting, it's funny, and I'm sure this is works for you as well. Like, doesn't the universe, when you're on this journey, doesn't it allow very purposeful spiritual people to come to you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. Well, if I haven't gone through what I've gone through, I would not have resonated with you, right?
Right.
Because we were introduced by Jim Barber, our
Our friend.
favorite, our friend. Yeah, he's so wonderful and so supportive. And right, he introduced us, and because we have been on a similar journey, we have have similar experience, and he think, oh, we can connect. And when we spoke the first time, right, we just hit it off because even though we have very different backgrounds, right? We grew up in completely different countries, different communities, and we look very different, but the common human experience it's the same.
Yes.
And we have gone through really hit the bottom to really bounce back, and not just bounce back, really even better, right? It's called it fall forward, right? We fall, but we fall forward, and now we're in a much better place than I would say most people. It's not saying to
Oh,
compare, right? Not to compare, but I'm just saying that in terms of the hard experience and the painful past that really have shaped us to who we are today. And I'm grateful actually for those experiences. And because of that, and I'm in such a, we are both, right? In such a better place.
well, that's the thing because I used to be so angry and so bitter at my past. And so, like, why don't I have children? And why didn't I have this wonderful husband? And why don't I have my sister here? And why, and why, and why, and why? And when I finally realized I'm here for a purpose, I survived all of that. You know, there's somebody that I listen to. I listen to a lot of different people. I'm sure you do too. But one thing, it's going to sound weird. There's Steve Harvey. He's a game show host, but he's also a very spiritual man and a motivational speaker. And he would say to me when I would listen to these things as I was healing and recovering, and I'm always healing and recovering. But as I was at my worst time, he would say, look at where you are. 100% out of 100 horrible days, you survived all 100. And I would say that to myself. I would say, okay, this is just a bad day. And now I say, if it does happen, and it rarely does, this is a rough day and a beautiful life. I don't want
Oh,
to, I don't
yes.
want any negativity in my brain. I don't want to, all of the things that I needed to work on so much. And that my sister would even tell me as we were growing up and young adults and we lived together as adults 17 years, she would say, oh, you gossip a lot. And, you know, you're always like kind of better than now. And I would think, you know, she was right. She was absolutely, and I would lie. I would tell lies. All of the things that she would tell me that were true, I work on them every single day. When I don't want to go somewhere, I used to just make up a lie like, oh, I have a doctor's appointment or not without even thinking. Now I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to tell the person I'm a little tired. I've had just a really long week or, you know, something. I want to honor her, but I want to honor myself by changing those things that had not gotten me, like you said, to a place now. I wake up full of gratitude. My mom and I tell each other three things we're grateful for every day. And I know that God in the universe or whatever it is that anyone believes in, I know what I believe in, is bringing me to the place that I am supposed to be and that I was
Mm,
always supposed to be. I just got lost along the path. And I feel that meeting people like you, that's my like, I put in my brain and I talk about it all the time. I want to meet like minded spiritual people. And whether they've had a hard time, which we have, or not, it doesn't matter. I just want them to be just kind of on this, you know, understanding where I'm coming from, not, you know,
mm,
understanding if I can say to them, you know, I was addicted to drugs and I was, you know, a hot mess and gambled and did all these things and lost a very big business in a very weird way for them to say, ah, yes, I understand. And, you know, and now you're pulling yourself out. And I have pulled myself out like you. My true journey started in November 3 years ago because that's when I quit gambling. That was
mm,
when I really, really, really turned a corner in a page in my life and was like, I don't ever want to spend one more day in a casino wasting my life, wasting my time, and wasting my what health I have left. Because our health is our wealth. That's our wealth.
mm.
So tell me a little bit about the book. I want to hear. I'm just looking at some notes. Tell me, you know, we talked a little bit about how, and I'm sure when you coach people, women
Yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
don't have a lot of self-value or don't, or they're high achievers, but they
Mm-hmm.
feel like they're kind
Not
of
enough. Never
not.
enough.
So tell me about that and tell me about how that plays into the book.
Yes. Well, really, this I would say this whole book it's about building confidence, but really, confidence really coming from knowing who you are, knowing what you want, and knowing how to trust yourself. And so many of us, it's that we grew up in an environment that it's we our self-worth and self-value, right, is all tied to so much tied to the performance, and but with that we just forget who we are. We don't know who we are, and then with that you don't know what you want, you don't know how to trust yourself. And that's really where I landed, right, 3.5 years ago. And then I realized, shoot, I had no idea who I was. I was just this giver, people pleaser, clueless about what I wanted. And I didn't know how to trust myself, constantly doubting myself. And so really the process, really this whole 3.5 years, still work in progress, as you just said, right? It's lifelong journey that you never stop learning, peeling the onions layer by layer by layer. But I would say I got to a really good place. It is, I would say, the fundamentally, I felt like there's so many steps, so many things we can do along the way, but I summarize it to like 3 steps. 3 steps. That's how I went through it and how I help other women going through it now. First step is really, I call it, I call it the 3A, triple A confidence code, right? The first A is awaken awareness. Awaken awareness. Awareness is first step. It's the first step to change. Is the foundation of that. And I still remember many, because my first step was to see a therapist, right? And then in that therapist office, I was there just for 1 year, but I had so many insights. And she helped me, Dr. Pratt, she helped me to really understand what the heck was going on. And I didn't even understand why I chose to be in that abusive marriage for 12 years. I was miserable. I felt really unsafe at home, but I still chose to stay. And until I understood what was happening. And that awareness just completely woke me up, and I decided to make change. Really, the awareness, it is more than just that, right? That toxic relationship, but also many other things. It is the childhood conditioning. The childhood conditioned behavior really determined my adult behavior patterns and where it came from. And the reason why I stayed in that abusive marriage was because my whole childhood, my parents made me feel unsafe at home. Just a lot of chaos and physical or corporal punishment, and there was shouting, yelling, and this constant, just felt that was familiar for me, right? That was love. How my parents treating me and being hypercritical, never enough, and right, beating me, shouting, blah blah blah, right? So I equated that with love. So now, many years later, I found this man treating me exactly how my parents treated me. I thought that was love. And until my therapist told me, no, that's not love. That's not love. That's abuse. And that's when I woke up. I'm like, oh, that's not normal, right? Because before that, I didn't even know what normal was, because that was my normal, to be in that kind of dynamic. And that was just example of how awareness is really the first step to change. Once I was aware, then I'm like, I will not want to continue anymore, right? I wanted to change. I cannot continue to stay like this. Then the second step, it is really ultimately align with worth. Really truly recognize who we are. Our worth is not tied to performance, not tied to achievement, not tied to result. And then our worth, it is truly be who we are as a person. And first is like release self-judgment. You need to be kind to yourself, accept who you are as just as it is. As imperfect as it is, you need to accept who you are. Then also you need to truly recognize your strengths. So many of us, especially women, we are told to be humble, right? Don't brag about yourself. And then with that, we internalize, we just don't really see our power. We don't see our strength. And that's diminishes, undermines our confidence so much, our worth so much. So that's huge. And the last one also, truly knowing what's your value, what's your definition of success, right? It's not money, it's not prestige, it's not none of things. You need to be clear what matters to you. And so that's the second step. And then the third step, ultimately, it is about act. I call it act with micro bravery. And because you cannot think out of it, with the changes, right, we have made all these transformative changes, you cannot just say, oh, you know what, I just want to be different, then you can be different. No. And because the fear is still gonna be there, the doubt still gonna be there, and then it is that you decide to take action despite the fear and doubt, but you take small, tiny baby steps. You cannot, right, overwhelm yourself doing something big when you're not ready. Like simple example, public speaking. I used to be such a big fear of mine. I know that's a fear for many, and
Yes.
really I started with joining a Toastmasters club. Literally just introduce myself, right? Just speak for 30 seconds and speak for 1 minute, and do that every week. Every day I do bigger role, speak more, and now 3 years later, I speak in front of hundreds of people and speak for an hour, and I enjoy doing that, right? But that's not happened overnight. It's really by this micro bravery. Go and speak even though I'm not comfortable, and just do that little by little over time, and eventually get where I'm today. And then there's so many micro bravery actions we need to take along the way. One is, right, how to say no, set boundaries. Because
Mm.
before I had never had boundaries, I didn't know how to say no. Saying no to people was so scary, so scary. But started with saying the smallest no that had no consequences, right? To say bigger and bigger no's along the way. And then the other one, it was like, I would say, building my tribe, making new friends.
Mm.
Because I really, at some 3.5 years ago when I started journey, I literally had no friends, no friends. And I felt so lonely, so lonely. And I started to make friends. Now I have so many friends. And it also started with saying just hi to the person next to me. And one by one, little by little, now I have built a tribe. So it is just so many of those things to ultimately get to really get to a place that we feel very, mentally, physically, and emotionally wealthy. That's what I call, right? It is wealthy. It's not money wealthy. It is
Mm.
mentally, emotionally, and physically fit. And that's what wealthy means. And then it is really just by taking those micro, bravery actions day by day. And we're with time, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a different person now. And same thing, even physical strength. Like, you can
Of
see the
course.
gun, right? It's like, yeah, the building the strength. I go to the gym every day, right? 7 a.m. every single day. And that's how it happens, right? It's never overnight. And so it's really, that's the whole book is all about. It's that process. It's that process. And I obviously told my story, how I did all of that, and eventually give people tools and strategies, because I realized there's a lot of like motivational, inspirational stuff out there, but not necessarily tangible. It's like, people are like, okay, I wanted to change. How? Right? How? This
Yeah.
is how it's tangible. Just you can actually follow this. It's a roadmap. Follow this and do the work, and you can too. So.
Well, that's beautiful. And I think it's exactly like you said, do the work, because my mom and I are in the wellness field, and we both teach this beautiful program. My mother's a trainer. We're both trainers actually in Ageless Grace.
Mm-hmm.
And we meet a lot of people, it's a senior population generally, but we meet a lot of people that have had different health issues, or their partner does, or their daughter, their mother. And, part of this whole process has been understanding and learning that it's not going to happen. Like, I was joking around with a friend, because I, like you, I'm single and wouldn't mind starting to date in the very near future. I've been single quite a long time, but no one's going to come and knock on my window. They're not, it's just not going to happen that way. It's the same thing as losing weight. It's not just going to be that I wake up one day and it's like, oh, look, no, I got to work at it. I got to eat less. I have to eat healthier. And I have to move more, and I have to sleep
Mm-hmm.
better, and I have to do all of these things. I have to do the work in every way, the spiritual work. And I feel almost like the emotional spiritual work is even more difficult than the physical. As challenging as that's been for me with the whole struggle with food, I feel like learning, getting to know myself and getting to know ourselves, because honestly, we get to a certain point in our life, like exactly like you said, and it's like, oh, who am I? What happened? Like, how did I get
Mm-hmm.
here? What's going
Exactly.
on? Why do I feel so empty? And why do I feel so sad? And why do I cry so much? And why, all these whys. And then, like you said, start peeling things back and realizing, oh, well, this happened when I was 7. I moved to a strange country, and my parents got divorced, and I had abusive step parents. And oh, now every relationship I've ever been in has been a disaster. My two fiancés got other women pregnant. Oh, now it's and all of that's so painful that for me, it was, the drinking and the drugs and the gambling. For you, it was the work. that
Mm-hmm.
kept your mind so busy, because otherwise you're going to
Yeah,
wake up and be like, I'm in this awful marriage. Why am I have this great
exactly.
job, and why am I so miserable, and why am I so unhappy? And thinking the same thing with me. I've had such horrible experiences with men because somehow I felt like it was okay for them to treat me like that. I would no more now go to one of the things, not for 1 second, not for 1 minute. The first red flag, I'm going to be a little tough to date, but you know what? I'm worth it and I've earned it and I
Mm-hmm.
deserve it. And if I see like a hot red flag on the first date, I don't need to ever see them again. I don't need to go on date number two. I don't need to like, let's find out. No, I will go on the next first date and it's going to be better. I'm not expecting anyone to be perfect, but at least I just want a
Mm-hmm.
gentleman that's kind and a little spiritual and is
Yes.
nice to the waiter. I don't think that's asking, too much. And I think that we've earned that and we deserve that because these 3.5 years for both of us have been a journey. Am I right?
100%. Oh yeah, has been a journey. Absolutely. But at the same time, I do want to say, yeah, it's hard work, but at the same time, it's the most rewarding work ever. And also the work is gets easier and easier. Right.
Yes.
At the beginning, yes, it was painful, a lot of tears and right, just facing your past and also just really examining your thoughts and right those emotions, difficult, really difficult. But once you get through that phase, obviously you need to make sure you have support or you have really have good support. Then once you get through, because there's once you have support, you have tools, have skills, you learn the skills along the way, and then just become such. I love working on myself, to be honest. Now I love working on myself. I'm still being coached on a regular basis. I love to be coached. I love to get coached really hard, meaning that it really tell me the truth. I'm like, hey, coach me, go deep. And I love to get emotional during the coaching calls because that means it goes right. It's really touched my heart in a profound way, and I still constantly going to workshops and different things, listen to podcast, reading, just constantly working on myself because now becomes so fun. Because I know once I do that work, I'm just getting to peeling another layer of onion, and it's because my life gets better because then I attract even more positive people in my life, right? Then I'm also even going to take less shit of how other people treat me. Sometimes saying no to certain situations still can be a little bit tricky, right?
Yes.
Sometimes still like stepping up to another level can still be a little bit fearful. And but I know the more work I do, those situations become easier and easier to handle.
When I first heard, or when I started on the journey and really started hard, well, before 3.5 years ago, for 8 years since I moved in with my mom, I started listening to different people, but one of them was Oprah Winfrey. And the first time, one of her videos, she said that she had the disease to please. And it was like this, like, la, 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 like light bulb,
Mm-hmm.
ding, 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 ding. Because
Yes.
I never said no to anybody ever. I mean, ever. And now once in a while, like you said, I have a little like, oh, but I do it. I do it. I say no and and I don't lie about it. So it's a blessing, a double blessing for me because it's like, I used to say, oh, it's only a little white lie. It's still a lie. It doesn't matter how little and white it is. And now I'm able to be like, listen, I'm not going to be able to make it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's wonderful. Like you said, the more that I work on myself, the better I feel. The better I feel, the more I work on myself. It's fantastic. And I think that for me, you writing the book really gives me motivation because I've been working on mine. I told you, I said a year, but it's probably a little longer than that, if I'm being honest. I kind of started during COVID and then stopped and then started. So I just want to know so people know how to reach you. And I know you're having your event on April 9th, so you can we
Yes.
have just 1 minute, believe it or not, 1 minute left. So just talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. First of all, the book will be available for pre-order officially on April the 9th. It's very exciting. The pre-sale campaign only going to last till May 12th. So just a month. And during this pre-sale time, and there's a lot of special exclusive bonuses that will not get it otherwise. For instance, obviously there will be signed copy from me, and ebook is included for free. And lunch party, will have an in-person lunch party here in South Florida. I'm going to make it really, really fun and memorable. And there's also keynote speeches, different packages. So there's anywhere from $49 to $999, four different packages. And so it will be available on uncheckingtheboxes.com. My book title,
Checkingtheboxes.com.
yeah,
Okay.
my book title on checkingtheboxes.com. And so very, very exciting about that. And otherwise, my website, cocoduancoaching.com. And I'm
Okay.
everywhere on social media. You see me on Facebook, I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn. You can see me dancing. Uh,
Yeah, you're a great dancer, by the way. Is it unchecking the boxes? UN
yeah,
checking?
UN,
Okay.
yes, on checking
Okay.
the boxes. One word, one word.
One word. Well, thank you, my
Yes,
dear. Thank you, thank you, thank you for this. I can't wait to read your book. I'm so excited. And I'm going to get tips. My mom and I are both going to get tips from you about the writing of the book. So I thank you very much for your
absolutely.
time.
Anytime.
I appreciate you.
Thank
And
you.